How do moms differentiate between anxiety where it becomes a problem versus, the normal mom worry?
Postpartum anxiety is not as talked about and is harder to sort of distinguish sometimes.
How to tell if you're going to get lucky tonight. And it's like you take the number of times mom has been touched by the number of meals that she's had a day down, and you subtract how many times you offered to help. And it's like this whole algorithm. And the answer is not a fucking chance.
Not a chance. Not a chance. When we long for more outside of motherhood, when we have dreams outside of our motherhood role, then all the guilt seeps in because we feel like motherhood should be enough. I should be satisfied. What's wrong with me that I actually don't like being home and I don't like fulfilling this role? I want to be at work. I want to be writing books. It's important to weigh how it's impacting you and make those decisions from there.
What are some practical tools and strategies for us moms to give ourselves a little bit more of that resilience?
One of the things that I talk with clients about that I think is so important is...
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Scrubs to Stilettos with me, Dr. Nicole Martin.
And me, Dr. Tiffany Moon.
Before we get started, Tiff, I have to say congratulations on the book. Top 10? Oh, what is it? Top 10?
Yes.
USA Today bestsellers.
Yes. I mean, there are so many different lists. So USA Today, which makes it a national bestseller. I was number 9 overall.
That is incredible.
Number 3 in nonfiction and number 1 in self-help and biography. And I was like, oh, okay, like the smaller category you get, the higher up you go.
You beat like Mel Robbins' book.
I mean, that week that my book came out on the list, I am ahead of Mel Robbins. That does not mean anything.
Incredible.
Like, I mean, she is a force. I absolutely love her. I have no idea how that happened.
I love her too, but I am going to toot your horn for you since you are being very modest, because that is an amazing accomplishment. I am so very proud of you.
Thank you so much. And for being my conversation partner in Miami. That was a fun night.
That was very fun.
Yeah.
I am sure while you were on book tour, you were overwhelmed, overstimulated, and beyond exhausted.
Yes, to say the least.
Which I think brings us into today's topic. I think today's topic is such an important one because as beautiful and amazing as motherhood is, it can be really overwhelming and exhausting and filled with emotions.
Yes.
A lot of times we don't talk about that.
We don't. And the fact of the matter is you and I went to medical school and there was a given path and there was tests and we passed them and everything. With motherhood, like, where was the manual? You know, I've read a lot of books. I read What to Expect When You're Expecting. Then I read all the books on how to properly parent twins and not compare them to each other. And then one of my children has some learning differences. So I read all those books, and still half the time, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, unfortunately, motherhood doesn't come with a manual and we're all just trying to figure it out. But if you have ever found yourself feeling like your brain's about to explode because it's Saturday morning, your kids have said mom 500 times, your dog is barking, your phone is ringing, your bacon is beeping in the oven and the alarm is going off, and your husband can't find his phone, and your brain literally feels like it's about to explode, then today's episode is for you. We have a very special guest. We have Erica Djossa. She is the CEO and founder of Momwell. She is a registered psychotherapist who specializes in maternal mental health. She's got over a decade of experience, and not just clinical experience, but she's also a mother of 3 boys. And she's had her insights published in USA Today, Scary Mommy, Time Magazine, and she has a new book that's called Releasing the Mother Load, where she talks about how moms need to carry less so that they can enjoy motherhood more. And I'm really excited to have her on.
Yes, if you are a mom or you have a mom, then you need to listen to this episode because she's going to drop a lot of useful, practical advice on how to mom with more intention and more gratitude.
All right, let's welcome Erica to the show. Welcome, Erica. We are so excited to be talking to you. And congrats, by the way. I saw that your book won an award, the Child Psychology Award for Literary Excellence. That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I know motherhood and kids and us trying to collaborate to make this happen today has been a bit of a journey. So I'm so excited to be here with both of you.
We attempted to do this a couple weeks ago, but you know how motherhood goes. Things happen and kids get sick and you get that unexpected phone call from the school. So I'm glad that we were finally able to get it in the books. Motherhood is such a beautiful experience, but it also comes with so many emotions and it can be overwhelming and exhausting all at the same time. And there's a lot of important things we want to get to, but I think before we dive into the meat of it, it would be fun to do a little kind of confessional, so to speak, a little unfiltered mom moment that might get you kicked out of that perfect mom chat. So do we have any kind of unhinged mom confessionals? I can go first because I actually just did this yesterday. So, you get so many gifts when you have like a kid's birthday party that I get overwhelmed and I don't give them all to my kid at the same time. So we have a spare gift closet in our house where we have doubles and extras. And then I re-gift them all the time because it's like my son doesn't need 300 toys. So I kind of so if you give me a gift, you might get it back.
You just have to keep track of who you got it from so you don't give the same person.
I don't necessarily keep track of things. I have like 100 boxes of Legos in my gift closet. I don't know who gave them to me, but chances are if you invite me to your kid's birthday, you're going to get a box of Legos.
I love that. I feel like that's very, like earth friendly because
it's practical.
Yes, because we get so many toys as well, and we get like duplicates of everything, and I don't need duplicates of everything. And usually around Christmas time, whenever they have those, you pick an angel off the tree. That's what we do with my kids. I'll re-gift some of their birthday gifts as those.
And you have twins, so I'm sure you get a lot of duplicates because people feel the need to always give twins the same exact thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Two of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Erica, do you have a mom confessional that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I actually run Monday Mom Confessions on our Instagram community at Momwell. And on like all the themes that come in all the time, the most common mom confession is, I am touched out, I'm overstimulated, I've had a long day. The last thing I want to do is be touched by my partner tonight. So please stay over there so that I can have some space. And a lot of, especially in those early stages of motherhood where we feel like a utility, where our body is being, crawled all over, we're up late at night. So it's a really common one that comes up.
I actually saw a very funny Instagram reel that was like a girl with a chalkboard. Have you seen this? And
I've seen this.
It's like how to tell if you're going to get lucky tonight. And it's like you take the number of times mom has been touched by the number of meals that she's had a day down, and you subtract how many times you offered to help. And it's like this whole algorithm. And the answer is not a fucking chance.
Not a chance. Not a chance. Yeah.
I have resent that meme to all my girlfriends because it's so true. I'm sorry. When I've heard mom 300 times and the phone is ringing off the hook, the dog is barking because no one's walked him, I'm trying to cook dinner, and then my husband's asking where the charger is. Like, no, I don't want like any part of sexy time at that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hard. Erica, remind me how old your kiddos are.
Yeah, I've got 3 boys. The oldest is 10, the middle is 8, and the youngest is 6 going on 7. So they were all 3.5 and under in boy mom land. It was a wild time, let me tell you. But we're coming out to this like different stage of parenting now where they're a little bit more independent. But
yeah. Let's talk a little bit about just the mental load that we carry as moms, not just what we actually do, but just how we manage it all in our heads. Because I will tell you, sometimes I feel like air traffic control, like this guy, like you can land, you can take off this way, runway 4, runway 6. Like it's all the schedule manipulation. And even me and Nikki behind the scenes trying to match up our schedules so that we have time to film this podcast together. I'm like, how about this day? She's like, no, I'm on call. How about this day? No, I have this. Oh, but my kid has a soccer thing. Like just the amount of mental gymnastics that we have to perform to have everything go on as planned. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. My book was called Releasing the Mother Load. And one of the things that we've become known for on the Momwell platform is our Invisible Load series, and taking pieces of this load and mapping it out visually to make you aware of it, make it visible, call it into the forefront, because so many of these things operate in the background. You're on your lunch at work trying to take a teacher's call while trying to juggle what's coming for dinner, but it all is invisible, or it's all in the background. Like you said, that like air traffic control piece, that it's so essential and it's so necessary, but it's so often expected of us and unrecognized. So not really acknowledged and sort of thankless. So I sort of liken it to an invisible backpack that we get handed when we become mothers. And in that backpack are all the essential tasks that are required to keep a household and like children and caregiving functioning and moving forward. But for some reason, still in our Lord's year of 2025, it is all still auto-assumed or defaulted to mom. So I'm pulling, tasks or bricks out of this invisible backpack, and somehow my name and my signature got on there, but I didn't opt in to be the one to carry this load. So it's those invisible pieces. It's the cognitive labor, the mental labor. It's also the emotional labor of helping our children learn how to regulate their emotions, dealing with their social lives, like all of those pieces that are essential, but invisible.
Do you find that a lot of us have a problem delegating these invisible tasks because we feel like dealing with the help that we ask for is more work than just doing it on your own? Like, yes, I can ask my husband, to go to the grocery store, but he's going to buy whatever milk. He's not going to buy like the grass-fed organic milk. And then I'm going to be like, or he's going to buy the low fat instead of the whole milk. Like, so I feel like I'm going to have to return it or go a second time. Like,
yeah.
How do you deal with that? Because I need to learn how to delegate better.
Yeah. There's two pieces that come to mind for this. There's one piece that's our identity, which I'll get to in a moment. And then there is delegating versus taking ownership and responsibility. Because what I find ends up happening is when we delegate or make a to-do list, or it's like, I'm willing to help, just tell me what you need me to help with, it still auto assumes the responsibility on us as the owners of those tasks. That in itself, even if our partner does come and like strike everything off that list, can still be really like resentment building in the background, because you have the option whether you put this on your list or not. I do not, because it's an essential task that needs to happen. So this whole conversation of delegating versus ownership over a domain is really important to hash out. And then the other piece of this that I find, especially when working with clients and digging in a little bit deeper, is if we step back and map out or journal or reflect on what our thoughts or assumptions are of what it means to be a good mom, so often they are equal to these care tasks or these domestic tasks. And so if something feels like it's woven into our identity, it makes me a good mom when my children are fed this organic food, or they have these well-balanced meals, or things are structured in this way, then I feel like I'm performing well in my role, and it feels good. But it's unrealistic to perform 100% in all of these areas. So we have to start to like decouple these tasks from our value and our role, and really redefine what being a good mom means for us individually, according to our values, or, our shared values with our partner, etc.
It's so funny you say that, because I think of like Genevieve, right? I don't know why, but with all my kids, I have felt this need to like make their food, the baby food. I don't buy like the little jars or anything. They've always had homemade purees of whatever. And so I spend every single Sunday, 2 or 3 hours making the purees, putting them in little jars, labeling them for the week and all this stuff. And those are like 2-3 hours that I'm not really spending with the kids, right? Like my Aunt Anthony's with them, or the nanny's taking my daughter for a walk. But for some reason, it's like this thing in my head that it's like, I have to make their food. I have to make sure that they're healthy. When like, I don't know that really is the best service of like how I can best spend my time. And I don't know where that notion came from, why I feel so compelled to make their food, but it's it's interesting that you bring that up. Like, why do we do these things and why do we associate that specific task with being a good mom?
And I think we're really seeing a rise of this as we see the trad wife social media content, start to rise where, oh, my husband asked for a burger. So I started and made the bun from scratch.
Yes.
And then I went and I got the cow from the field and whatever. It feeds into this belief and assumption that more time and more effort equals better parenting, equals like the right path or something along those lines. But like you said, just because it's labor intensive and time intensive to make this homemade food doesn't necessarily mean it's in alignment with your values of what it means to be a good mom, because maybe you actually wanted to be at the park with the kids for those 2 hours. Or I know that your infant maybe isn't going to the park just yet, but these types of things. And so it actually, if we step back and really take a measuring stick according to our values versus these assumptions and expectations that have been assigned to us, we realize, wait a minute, this is missing the mark. And that's why it feels stressful and chaotic and out of alignment for me, because it's actually not really feeding into those values and the things that are meaningful and important.
Oh, that's interesting.
So how do we go about changing our mindset so that we stop guilting ourselves and making ourselves feel bad? Because we talk about mom guilt all the time. And I joke with my girlfriends that I bet you my husband does not sit around with his guy friends talking about dad guilt.
No.
And much of it, I think, comes from society, but much of it comes from internal. Why do you think mom guilt exists, and what can we do to sort of get rid of that?
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head with it starts with these societal and external expectations. We observe our mothers growing up. We hear how others talk about women, talk about mothers. And, we see at the Thanksgiving dinner, all of the women gathered in the kitchen talking and all the husbands watching football. Like all of these messages are absorbed throughout, our lifetime. And then we arrive in this role and we have internalized those. So now we have this measuring stick or this internal surveillance crew now, right? Like this internal messaging that has been ingrained to no fault of our own. This is the water that we're swimming in, right? Now we have this sort of surveillance crew internally saying ooh, if somebody showed up and saw the way my front foyer was right now, they're going to think that I'm awful at running this house, or they're going to think X, Y, and Z. So starting to recognize that these voices or these pressures or these expectations, pause when we feel that feeling of ooh, I should be doing more, or I should do this, I should do that. And we're shoulding all over ourselves, stopping and saying, wait a minute, whose voice is that? Where does that expectation come from? And then again, I think it's so important for us to do some of the work to understand our value system. So I have something called a value sort. It's like a free download, and it has all these value words on it. And you narrow down from 100 or 120 values down to your top 10 core values. And some of mine are growth and constantly learning and being developing myself. And then also adventure and spontaneity and experiences. And my husband doesn't really value experiences in the same way. So we have to work together to meet that value of mine. And so when we get really clear on the measuring stick of what is important to us, then we can weigh that should or that expectation against it and say, that's actually, I've been subscribed to that belief. That's something that has been, placed on me or that I've internalized. And I actually want to try and do it this way. An example of this is, I don't know if you feel the pressure to put your kids in every single activity because it's enriching for them, right?
I just joined the soccer club life.
Exactly. Well, and I'm in the Toronto area, so it's hockey, and hockey demands all of your time, every 7 a.m. practice and all of these things. And we're running around doing all of these things, my husband and I, and we're the kids, it's a fight to get them out the door. They don't even want to get up and go. We don't particularly enjoy being there and sitting there. Why are we over scheduling and overbooking ourselves so much? And so when we did that check-in with what's important to us, slowness is actually really important and valuable to us, especially in our family life, because we run a company and it is so chaotic in our day-to-day life that it feels nice to control our schedule and keep it a little more slow on the evenings and weekends. So becoming curious about where those shoulds come from, why we are feeling this way or even behaving this way, like why we've got them signed up to all of these things. And then really digging into those values to say, like, is this really what I want? Is this what we want?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I definitely have overscheduled my kids before. Not my girls now are 10, so I feel like I've learned a little bit of wisdom, but back when they were like 5, 6, I mean, we had something every afternoon. It was like tennis on Mondays, ballet on Tuesdays, cheer on Wednesdays, Mandarin on Thursdays, and it was just wild. And my kids didn't particularly want to go to any of those things, but I don't know why I felt the pressure to have them in all these sorts of quote unquote enriching activities. Because basically all the other moms around here were doing it. So I just signed them up too. And then slowly I was like, we're not doing that anymore.
And imagine we've got this like bag of values or our basket, whatever we want to keep it in. Maybe it's a nice handbag or something. We've got our values carved out. Let's say our top 10. When somebody comes along and is either like subtly placing an expectation or they're just talking about how they parent, they mother, and we feel the need to take it on as an expectation, it's like them putting another values block in our bag for us to carry. So we need to really be mindful of, do we want to adopt this as a value for ourselves? Another example is my maid of honor in my wedding is very much like the homemaking, stay at home. Like she lived and breathed and was so excited to be home with her 3 girls, right? Makes pies from scratch, like all of these things. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't be more the opposite of that, wanting to run a company, wanting to have my family, maybe even feeling like I lacked maternal sort of skills because it wasn't what I always sort of dreamed of as I grew up and, you know, had a family. And so it's such a different value system that if I'm seeing, whether it's content online or spending time with friends, and I'm seeing that, those shoulds can really easily try to wiggle their way back into our basket of our values and the things that we carry. And so really like evaluating, is that just their values? Is that what is important to them and what they're operating by? Or is that something that I really should be considering? And then mindfully, consciously putting into my values bucket.
I feel like a lot of women, after they become a mother, kind of experience this like identity crisis, right? Where you're like, you've spent 30 years just being an individual worried about yourself. And then basically overnight, now you shift into this permanent 24/7 caretaker with something that's absolutely dependent on you. And it's very hard for a lot of us to transition into that role. You know, you don't have a manual for motherhood, and you have all of these societal expectations that people have put on you that you've witnessed throughout your life. Do you think all of those expectations is kind of what contributes to this identity crisis? Like you don't know what to listen to, what mom to be, because you have like all of this different input from everyone.
Yeah, it's all really contradictory too. So I like the visualization of like this filing drawer labeled motherhood that we have in our brain from the time we can like store memories in there, right? And as we're going through, we are putting in all of these images of motherhood that we have observed. Then we get into our role, we go to that drawer for a roadmap, for a manual. And we've not done any like sorting through. So it's got all the junk mail with all the valuable mail that we need to be following along with maybe some of the instructions along the way. But it's all mixed in together. So it's a really confusing time, especially if I find this generation is like the cycle breaking generation that wants to parent very differently than their parents did. So even some of the roadmaps that were stored in that filing drawer, we may want to like feel like we want to do the opposite of that. So there is a lot that comes up as we transition into motherhood. And then it's an entirely new role. It is a new piece of our identity, but it shouldn't and doesn't need to be all of our identity. And this is the part that is really difficult. And I know that you both talk a lot about being working moms and trying to juggle. If I don't even know that there's a balance. Balance is probably not the right word, but to juggle all of the things, because parts of you are still so valid and important, and you want to maintain those pieces as you try to figure out what this new role and this new piece of your identity looks like.
Yeah, it's funny that you say it shouldn't be your whole identity. I do sometimes see, not to call anyone out, some women who love motherhood so much that it becomes almost all of their identity. I see women who sort of neglect their friends, neglect their marriage for a little bit because they're just thrust into this motherhood, and they, go full head into it. But then a few years later, when your kids do start having some independence close around the time they enter the double digits, I think there's some hurt feelings because it seems like the children are pulling away from you when in essence they're just growing up and this is part of, their normal life stages. What do you think about the moms that go a little too head forward into motherhood?
I think that this varies a lot, and I've learned that there's a very big cultural component here. Brown Girl Therapy is the handle on Instagram, but I can't think of her actual name, has written a book about what it means to be a first-generation immigrant, like of immigrant parents in a new country, juggling two cultures. And one of the things that I've really learned through her work is that a lot of other cultures outside of North America really find their self-esteem and their self-worth and their identity through their family roles and connections. And so there's a piece of that that might be cultural that also is valid, but it looks different than the trad wives. And so that's a whole other bucket, right? But to me, it's like if you're, 10 toes, 10 fingers deep in motherhood and it is not causing you distress, have at it. Have all the, homemade meals and all of the things that you want to have. If that works for you, it works for your family, it works for your partnership, and it is not creating friction or distress in your life, then you found the right, balance and connection for you. But so many of us feel that has to be the case. And so when we long for more outside of motherhood, when we have dreams outside of our motherhood role, then all the guilt seeps in because we feel like motherhood should be enough. I should be satisfied. What's wrong with me that I actually don't like being home and I don't like fulfilling this role? I want to be at work. I want to be, like writing books and like doing the things that you both are doing. So it's important to weigh how it's impacting you and make those decisions from there.
Yeah, I think it's very different for each person, right? Like I have girlfriends that are stay-at-home moms and they're like your best friend. They love to bake pies and do floral arrangements and they are thriving at home. But then I have other friends that left their corporate jobs or whatever it was that they were doing to be moms and they're like pulling their hairs out. Like they're I need to go out. I need mommy time. I want to go on vacation because it's overwhelming. They miss the adult time. They miss being in the office and they're not happy right now with the status quo. So I think it totally varies. For me personally, and I think Tiff and I are very similar in this sense, being a working mom, I think makes me a better mom because I love what I do as an anesthesiologist. I love taking care of patients. And I don't think I would be happy not doing that. Like for me, that's how I contribute to society. I enjoy it. And being away from the kids gives me like a little bit of time to be myself. And then when I come back home, I'm so excited to see them because I didn't see them because I was at work for 8 hours. And so when I get home at 4:00, I'm like, let's go outside, let's play soccer. I'm like excited and fully present. So for me, it's quality time with them over quantity. Like I may not be there all day, but when I am there, I really show up in like my best version of myself because my cup is full.
Yeah. And I see a lot of sort of like polarizations and rhetoric online about working moms or really backhanded side comments if you're going to let daycare or the nanny raise your kids and like these types of things that are just meant to invoke shame. When we start to live according to our values and the definition of motherhood that is important to us, society will be there to try to box us back into what it thinks we should be in our role. So just heads up, we have to build some of that resilience to know that people will try to hand those things back to us, right? But what you're mentioning, Nicole, is when we are happy and we are healthy and we are focusing on our own well-being, it makes for happy, well-adjusted children. The assumption here is that my time and presence equals a good relationship with my child, or, raising the goal, happy, healthy children. Like, I don't know, we just want them to be happy and healthy and maybe successful and on their way. But when we look at research and the actual predictors of that, it's not the amount of time spent with them. It's not how many activities they are in. It's not X, Y, and Z, pressures that we feel. It often has to do with the mental well-being of the parents and the home, and how then that environment is for the child, that they feel a secure connection to their parent. So it's not equal to the amount of time. It comes back to that similar belief of the amount of energy that we put into these things equals this type of output. It's really not that. We can have the most happy, securely bonded, healthy children and be working moms and have them in daycare or have a nanny. And another side note, we shouldn't be the only secure attachments in our child's life. They benefit actually by having multiple secure attachments in their life. It doesn't just have to be us. We had a daycare provider, an in-home provider who the boys saw for 7 years. She was basically a part of our family. What a beautiful, important relationship that they got to have with her. And that doesn't take away from my relationship. And it was a benefit. It was an additional special person in their life. So I think we have to reframe some of that so that we can feel permission to really free ourselves up and live in what, we feel called to do, or we want to put our energy into, and also know that that doesn't come at a disservice to our children or put them at a disadvantage in any way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And you mentioned, Erica, building resilience for when tough things happen. Do you have any practical strategies for us as moms? Because, Nicole, you mentioned your cup is full, so you can pour from it. But sometimes my cup is not full. My cup is empty and I'm running on fumes. And those are the moments where I catch myself. The children are arguing with each other, or one has spilled something after multiple times I said, please be careful, please be careful. And then you snap, and that's when I told you should have been more careful. And I'm like, then I berate myself for having raised my voice at my children and upset them. And it just goes in a cycle, right? And I notice I become like that when I lose my buffer of resilience, when I am just running on fumes and I have nothing to pour from my cup. What are some practical tools and strategies for us moms to give ourselves a little bit more of that resilience?
One of the things that I talk with clients about that I think is so important is becoming curious about the anger or the cues our body is giving us. There's so much shame as it relates to anger and motherhood. And so it goes underground and we don't talk about it enough. But if we raise our voice at our children, if we are gritting our teeth in rage because we are so frustrated that I've asked you 10 times and still you're on your technology or whatever it is. So using that anger as a check engine light, that frustration as a check engine light, a clue that a need of some sort is going unmet before the whole car is up in flames on the side of the highway because we didn't pay attention to the first indicators that there was a need there or something that needed tending to. So part of building that resilience is becoming attuned to the clues, the early clues that our body gives us that we are depleted in some way. And that's really difficult. I say that as an entrepreneur who runs a company, who runs on depleted a lot of the time. So I know that it's not always realistic to be fully topped up and at capacity. But there are definitely seasons where I'm much more irritable and on edge than others. And that's an indicator to me I'm either carrying too much stress or, I'm not getting enough sleep or there's something I'm not prioritizing here. And how can I really radically prioritize or focus on one of those needs for myself so that I can show up better for everyone around me.
What's the worst? That feeling of like when you lost your cool because you were overstimulated, too many things were going on, and your kid's like, mom, 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 mom. And by the fifth mom, you're like, what? And then you just feel, you see their like little eyes, and then you just feel so bad. And then you're like, I'm sorry, mommy was just really stressed out and mommy was busy. And then I'm like, and then you're chasing your tail trying to make it up to them. It's such a bad feeling, and it happens. For me, even though I say my cup is full, I mean, that doesn't mean that I don't have times when my cup is totally empty. For me, I find like I tend to lose my cool the most when I'm overstimulated, when I feel like my browser tab has like 15 things open. I'm answering an email. My husband's asking me to order more milk. Grayson needs something. I have a meeting that's about to start. Like when I have too many things going, that's when I become like the most irritable.
Yeah, which of course makes sense, So, I mean, I've told my kids, of course, my kids are 10, they're not 3. So if I catch myself getting to that point, I will say, like, you guys need to play quietly for 20 minutes. Mommy needs to go have some mommy time. And I will literally go in my room and turn on a guided meditation. I will take the dog for a walk just to get outside for a few minutes. But I can usually catch myself most times now before I get to that level of snapping at my children or my husband. Sometimes my husband comes home at the wrong time, and then he gets the snappiness. And when he gets home, I usually tell him how my day was or whatever. If the children were bad, I notice that I always say, your kids did this today. Like
your child, you need to come and get your child.
Correct. When the girls are bad, I'm like, your children did this today. They spilled an entire Starbucks acai refresher in the back of the car. Like, your children did this. But then if they were good, I'm like, oh, the girls did this today. It's so funny how, our husbands also feel our moods when they get home.
And you're both bringing up such a valid point about this irritability and anger. My colleague, Dr. Asharina Reem, and I actually just signed a really big book deal with Penguin Random House that we're so excited about, writing on rage. The book, the working title is called Enraged, all about anger in motherhood. And we parse out all of the vulnerability factors or all of the contributing sort of under the surface factors that contribute to our irritability and our anger. So overstimulation, especially in the like 5 and under years, is a huge piece of it, right? For me, it's sometimes basic needs like, if I don't eat before we go into bedtime routine, like no one wants to know me by like 9 p.m.,
Anger, it's a real thing.
Right. Or is it resentment because your partner like strolls in after all the chaos happened and they didn't have to own any of the responsibility or any of that load? There's so many different things that contribute to this in different stages of parenthood, and they're all valid. It makes sense that we are angry about this, but then we also need to acknowledge that this is a trigger or a vulnerability factor for us. So how am I going to, be kind to future me and set up maybe some quiet time in the Saturday routine so that it's just like not constant overstimulation for, a solid 8 hours straight? Or how am I going to make sure that I have a snack before we go into bedtime routine so that I'm not trying to rush out of there to go have my dinner because I'm too hungry and irritated and can't get through the bedtime story? So really becoming curious about those check engine lights when that irritability or frustration or resentment is starting to kick in, and becoming curious and digging a little deeper to see what's going on there.
How can we not give permission, but in essence, give permission for moms to pay attention to their check engine light? Because I think myself included and many of our friends, our check engine light has been on for months. We just hadn't taken it to the shop yet.
And we know. We know it's on.
We know it's on. We see it.
Tired. We're stressed. The wheels are falling off.
It's one of those, I'll get to it later. If it was such an emergency that the brakes weren't working or something like that, you'd take it to the shop immediately. But the check engine light on, you know that something's not right, but the car is still drivable and you need to go somewhere. So it's just on. How can we give each other the permission to take the break to practice the self-care, to get to the gym. I used to feel guilty going to the gym because by the time I go and drive and come back and shower, it's like a good 2 hours. It's not 1 hour. Like even the class that's an hour, by the time you go park, come back, it's 2 hours. And I'd be like, you know what? I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm not going to go to the yoga because that's 2 hours that I could have, taken a walk with my kids or done something else. But then I resent my kids for the fact that I didn't get to my yoga practice this week. And then it's all just down from there. How can we get out of that way of thinking?
Or you do what I do and you wake up at like the crack of dawn to get a workout.
I don't want to wake up at the crack of dawn.
Then you're exhausted, right? So it's like you either take time away from the kids or you do it at the crack of dawn because you don't want to take time away from the kids, but then you're tired because you didn't sleep 8 hours. So it's like you're kind of darned if you do, darned if you don't. Like, either way, we're losing.
We're really making motherhood sound amazing, you guys. Like we've just lost all our listeners who are not mothers. Like they have already skipped this. They're like, this is awful.
The number of IUD placements just went up.
We want you guys to know that we love motherhood and we have lots of positive things to say. But this is, this wasn't a get on and talk about all the wonderful things. This is a problem solving session.
And it's really important because we shouldn't be setting our alarm at 4:30 in the morning to get up and go to the gym. Like this is just getting, we do it because self-martyrdom equals motherhood in our society equals being a good mom, and it's praised and it's somewhat expected. And so it is actually counterculture to put any kind of priority on our needs as women and as mothers. And I find even in language that I use in sessions with clients, if I'm talking about putting your needs first, that is such a pendulum swing that we can't even comprehend how I'm going to get my meal before my kids' meal. Also, because they're going to scream the house down and drive me crazy. And there's so many reasons why that doesn't feel like it works. So I propose, how about pulling up a chair and putting your needs at the table with everybody else's needs in the family. Put it on equal playing field. If your child gets to have scheduled enriching activities in their schedule, I should get to have a scheduled enriching activity in my schedule. If I prioritize their social relationships, I should be able to also prioritize that for myself. So it's not about who we center more than the other. It's not about, is our energy going to our child or to ourselves, or are we putting ourselves first? Are we being selfish? Because the whole, shaming can, especially when it's counterculture, people might anchor that in being selfish. It's just, can my needs have equal playing field as the rest of the family? That often feels like a more approachable way to think about it because it's not such a stretch. And I totally agree with you. Our check engine lights have been on for a really long time, right? They've been on. They may have even been on before we entered motherhood, depending on the family and the system we came from and all of these things. But it is so much easier to put out a fire that is in one room of the house than it is to put out an engulfed home that is completely on fire. And what I see so much with my community and with clients that I work with is we white knuckle our way through until the whole house is on fire. And then all of a sudden we need help, we need support, and we need it quickly because we are just drowning and in crisis mode, right? So it might not be a crisis when the check engine light comes on, but it has the potential to snowball into something much more difficult to potentially put out down the road. So it is important to pay attention and proactively, not even proactively, but still reactively in those moments, tend to what those needs are.
Yeah, agree. We should all get our engines checked.
Mm-hmm. Erica, I want to touch on something as we're kind of wrapping things up, because it's something that I struggled with a lot after my daughter Genevieve was born. Postpartum anxiety. A lot of women experience it to a certain degree. How do moms differentiate from, a lot of people are like, oh, that's just normal mom worry. It's normal to worry when you have a newborn at home. It's normal to not sleep at night. How do moms differentiate between, anxiety where it becomes a problem versus, the normal mom worry? And what can they do to identify when they're kind of, having more of a problem?
It's such an important question because I feel like there's been a lot more conversation about postpartum depression, though still a long way to go there. Postpartum anxiety is not as talked about and is harder to sort of distinguish sometimes because, like you said, some of those behaviors are even praised or seen as caring. They come with badges of honor, maybe even, right? So to me, when I'm working with a client, if they're talking about anxious worries or thoughts, I want to understand, are there intrusive thoughts happening? Are we having scary and disturbing thoughts about safety issues with our baby? Are we having behaviors that, we want to go in and check them based on an intrusive thought that came up? And I want to understand what's going on there. And then I also want to understand, have things that have felt safe in my life before now feel unsafe? An example, walking down a busy road on the sidewalk maybe felt very safe before. Now, with a stroller and the intrusive thoughts that I have, feels like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 threat. And so I begin to avoid things that I would commonly do as a result of the fear and the worry. So common, like big things here, avoidance, scary, intrusive thoughts. And it's postpartum anxiety takes the safety threat level from like a normal sort of average baseline and dials it all the way up. So a flight of stairs that once was not a problem is a threat. Walking down the road is now a threat. Maybe even the knives in our kitchen feel like a threat because of the scary and disturbing thoughts that we're having. So really looking at those pieces. And there's so many helpful interventions and treatments. Like, we do not need to live in that fear and worry. But I think that you mentioned a really valid point that it can equal what we think motherhood is supposed to look like. So it gets really kind of buried and goes unseen and untalked about.
It's funny you mention avoidance. So Anthony is a pilot. He became a pilot pretty early on in our relationship. We've been together 10 years. And I would fly with him everywhere when we first started dating. I mean, he had just been a pilot for a couple of days and I jumped in a Cessna with him and flew to the Bahamas. Like, I had zero fear of flying. I would fall asleep, like all the trust and faith in the world. I have an anxiety now to fly like you cannot imagine. Like, I have a book that I like write letters to my kids in case I die before I get on a flight. Like, it is so unnerving for me now.
Yeah. Well, and this comes from a few different places. So I had like a pretty, semi-traumatic upbringing. Traumatic for me. We don't compare traumas, so I won't go there, And so my nervous system is already dialed up on certain safety things. So I already can have a hair sensitive trigger for that anxiety response where somebody might be more resilient to that. So there's a piece of that, like our upbringing and our nervous system going into parenthood. But then the postpartum anxiety, the hormones, the lack of sleep. If you had a traumatic birth, if you had an unexpected delivery or unexpected C-section, some of these different factors that can play out, was your baby in the NICU and you had all these monitors that told you they were healthy and now you're at home and there's no reassurance that they are okay, right?
Oh, I was crazy. I had a nanny that with a breathing strip. I had the Owlet pulse oximeter because Jenna was born premature, unexpected C-section, 10 days in the NICU. It was like the perfect recipe for a postpartum day 3. I had a full-on panic attack, like in the shower, crying hysterically. It was overwhelming. And she's a year and a half now. And I still have more anxiety than I think I've ever had in my entire life.
Because it's so traumatic, right? And the fact that mental health is not woven into the system and the follow-up, automatically for those things, maternal mental health specialists, our team of specialists covers the states in the US. The fact that that isn't built into the system, we should be anticipating that you are gonna experience, whether it's flashbacks, intrusive thoughts, like all of the things that come with anxiety, and be like really supporting any NICU visit. And if you don't need it and you didn't feel traumatized by it, then you've got great skills for the future. But then those who need it, who don't, maybe are unaware that this is, maybe it's their first time around. And again, it's hard to know what is motherhood and what is, off of baseline. But yeah, that, like you said, perfect recipe for all of that anxiety. And it is so woven into like just wanting to protect your child and wanting to keep them safe. But it also starts to become restrictive, right? So, I mean, we all have anxiety to a point, but when it starts to interfere, when we start, like when the avoidance starts to become problematic because I won't take the flight of stairs, or, we can't fly to family vacation or X, Y, and Z, right? When it starts to interfere, then I would really recommend speaking with somebody to process either some of that trauma or gain some of the skills to be able to tolerate that anxiety, that it doesn't go in the driver's seat in these situations and cause you to kind of like hightail it out of there. But you can be aware, you can be anxious, but you can also regulate your nervous system and still follow through in those moments.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've learned to deal with it now. Obviously, we still travel and stuff, but there are white knuckle moments on the chair where I'm like, are we going to be okay? It's terrible.
Oh my gosh. Such wise words. We're so excited and we're really looking forward to your new book. Do you have any expected publication date on that? Is it a while out?
It's always a hurry up and wait situation with publishing. We're just signing and announcing the deal. So it will be spring of 2027.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it'll be a while out.
For the world of publishing. That
exactly.
sounds exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap it up with some fun and relatable rapid fire questions if you would participate with us. I'll go first. What is one piece of parenting advice you wish we'd all stop giving?
Sleep when the baby sleeps. That's the worst advice ever. Like, guys, who's going to clean the bottles? Who's going to do the laundry? I got to take a shower because I haven't like, there is no sleeping when the baby sleeps. People need to stop saying that.
Yeah, that used to bother me too. And I never did that. Erica, do you have one?
I'm thinking all of mine like fall into like gender buckets about like, how mom should be the one to wake up every nighttime waking, for example, like that gets mom's job to soothe or to be the one to wake up in the nighttime. Like the ones that default this work onto mom. I'm like, oh, no, we need to unpack those and challenge those a bit.
Yeah. Guys like to use like, oh, you're breastfeeding. I can pump and put it in a bottle and you can get up and feed it to the and burp and change the diapers and stuff. Like shouldn't default to the moms.
Or you're better at it than I am. Yeah, you're a better multitasker. You're better at soothing them. Like they cry when I hold them. Like exactly. No, we're not getting away with any of that over here. No.
That's so funny. The baby likes you more. Yes, because I have teats. Thank you. What is one thing that you do just for you?
I think working, and we talked on this before, but like building something that has a lasting impact beyond myself is so important to me. So being able to invest in projects like writing the book or building the company literally breathe life into me every day. So that's holding on to that piece has been so important.
What about you, Nikki?
I'd have to say exercise. Like that is just for me. I love working out. I love sweating. It makes me feel good. The endorphins, like that is something that is a must for me. How about you, Tiff?
I'm going to take a page from your book and get back into exercise because it really did fall off the list of priorities. It just kept getting lower and lower until it was like number 16 and I just never got to it. But I know that you take it seriously and that inspires me to get back into exercising. One thing that I do just for me is every Sunday I block out 2 hours of mommy time and I do whatever I want with that. If I want to go to a brunch with a girlfriend, go to yoga. Sometimes I just nap. Sometimes Sometimes I journal, sometimes I clean my closet, like whatever. But like 2 hours, mommy is unavailable. That is when I recharge. I also look at my schedule for the next week. If I have any upcoming events, I'll go in my closet and like pre-pull my clothes and shoes so that Tuesday at 5, after I just got off work, but I have a dinner to go to, I'm not like, oh crap, what do I wear? You know what I mean? I try to look at my week and preemptively set myself up for success. You know, if I have a podcast with someone, I will go on their Instagram and find out about that person, do my intel. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff that we never get to do in the moment of, I do on my Sunday, like mommy time, or I take a nap. Last Sunday, I took a nap.
I like a good Sunday nap.
Yes. Okay. Last question. What do you tell yourself on those hard days?
I like to tell myself that I'm just human. And one of the things I reassure myself and those in my community is no amount of parenting skills or scripts or right steps that we could take is going to make us not lose our cool sometimes, because we are just human, right? Like there is no perfect achieved level of parenting that will take that away. So it's very much like I'm human, and then becoming curious about how do I maybe do this differently tomorrow.
Nikki?
My mom would always tell me, like, it can't rain forever. And it's something that's so simple, right? But you're just like, okay, today sucked. Like today was a hard day. I got, work was hard. This was hard, but it can't rain forever, right? Like, so yeah, maybe today was hard, but tomorrow it's going to be like a beautiful sunny day, or, it's just reminding yourself that like, yes, this moment is difficult, but it's not going to last forever. It doesn't define me. Tomorrow there's going to be a new day, and kind of just not getting lost in that temporary storm.
Yeah, I love that. I kind of have a similar thing. And I always just tell myself, like, you're doing the best you can, like, did I do the best I can today? Like, yes, I did. And if the answer is no, I didn't, then, I will make changes to be better. But by and large, I think most of the moms out there are doing the best they can with what they have. That does not mean they're perfect. That does not mean they didn't lose their cool, but we're all humans, like you said, and we're all trying, and we all love our children. We all want what's best for them. It's just hard. Like you said, there's no manual for how to be the perfect mom. And I think we're all doing the best we can.
So Erica, can you tell our listeners where they can follow you at?
Yeah, I hang out mostly on Instagram at Momwell. Also have the Momwell podcast, which covers all the maternal mental health related things, from NICU to depression, anxiety, intrusive thoughts, all the things. And momwell.com, you can find out about our services. We're across all of North America, in network, accessible, specialized mental health care.
Thank you so much.
And if you guys haven't already checked it out, make sure you check out Erica's book, Releasing the Mother Load: How to Carry Less and Enjoy Motherhood More.
I need to read that for sure. I'm going to read that. It's on a very long list of wish lists on my books, but that sounds amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today, Erica. We appreciate all your wisdom and your insights into motherhood. If you guys haven't already, follow, subscribe, leave a review. We'd love to have you as part of our Scrubs to Stilettos community.